Uh, we have basically Ben. Hi Ben, love to see your face. So it'll be nicer for people to kind of start their. Hey, hi Kumar. Quite nice, yeah. Quite a few known basically people have started joining in. We'll wait for a couple of minutes for kind of everybody to join in, and then we can go ahead. Esther, nice to see Esther also over here. Salim Ahmed bhai, कैसे हो आप?
Steve, we were able to hear you partially. Sorry.
How are you, ma'am?
Rishabh.
Yes.
Rishabh.
Yeah.
I have Steve on the phone here.
Okay.
Would it be possible for him to speak through the phone?
Yeah, just put
on the screen. Just try it. Steve, do you want to try speaking now?
Barney, can you put him on the speaker?
Yeah, try now, Steve.
Okay, I'm speaking now. Is that
perfect?
Yeah, perfect. And Steve, you can mute yourself then from your device.
Mute myself, yeah.
No, maybe I don't know.
Okay, I've got the circle of doom on my mute thing now.
That's why probably it might just help reduce the echo. And probably you can mute your mic and your audio both from the device.
While you may need some help,
yeah, wait, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's not letting me do anything.
Is it audible, sufficiently audible for Steve to speak?
Okay, I've unmuted. Is that any better?
Yeah, you are audible. Steve, you are audible.
Yes.
Yes.
So when we do the spotlight, we make sure that Steve is in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's like Barney with the two voices.
Right.
That would be fun to watch.
Hi.
Nice.
Good to see a lot of people.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Hey.
I better plug you in.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hi, Rupali. Long time. Right? Esther, it's been like ages, we have not seen you. So this is kind of quite pleasure to, see you like this, Maybe this is a good part about the pandemic, that at least we are able to see somebody, like, in some other way. So,
yeah.
Kevin is also here. Aparna is here. Lot of people. Not bad. Should we wait for 2-3 minutes and then we can kind of begin it?
Yeah, we can wait for 2 more minutes. There are people joining in.
Hey,
hi. Hi.
Hi. Good to see you.
Yeah, very happy to be here.
we have got two Aparna, right? So one is normal Aparna and one is Aparna Jaishankar.
Hi. Hi. So nice to meet you, Jay.
Same here, so maybe I don't know when we'll be able to meet in person, but at least.
I know.
જોસફભાઈ ગામમાંથી બીજા લોકો જોડાવાના છે કે નથી જોડાવાના? Nathan.
He just disappeared.
Yeah. Hey, hi Ben.
Hi, Ben.
What happened to you? I thought you were growing your hair. I was expecting kind of quite longer than this, right?
You're on mute, Ben.
Thanks. Yeah, it became a bit unmanageable, you know.
Yeah, this works very well. You know, every time it works very well. Hey, hi Rajdeep. Amrut is also joining in. Gabriela, nice.
Jayesh is with us as well. Hi, Jayesh.
Hi guys, hello.
Is Radha here? I'd like to say hi to her. I've just come
Yeah,
talked to her on the phone.
Hi, I'm good. How are you? I'm so happy to see you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So,
Bluetooth mode. Connected.
Payal, I'll be ready to go ahead.
Certainly.
Yeah. Okay. I welcome
Yes.
everyone. It will be great if everyone can actually basically put their video on, for one of the basically standard classic screenshots that we need, for all of this. So that the team can at least basically see who all are there and, how do they look and are we all happy or not, more or less. But we want everybody to kind of put the video on. So Nalini, Leena, Amit, Tiny, everybody who's around. RP, you are also there, So can we please have video on for a couple of minutes, and kind of basically have a very big smile on the face so that people can start, taking the photograph. Piyush, you're off. Piyush, Radha, Aparna, right? Huh? While you'll have to tell me when the videos are basically, when you're through with these screenshots and everything, and then we can kind of begin the entire process.
Yes, we are through.
We're through. Everybody's,
Yes.
yeah, everybody's put their video on, more or less.
More or less, yes.
Okay. Great. So, good afternoon, everyone. Happy to see everybody currently on board. So, all the people who have possibly worked with us, people who have worked in the past, part of some of the DICRC team, and many of the other people whom we know across the globe have kind of joined in. So maybe this is a good part about the pandemic, that at least people from across the globe have been able to join in, which possibly in the physical exhibition we would have not been able to do that. So thank you very much. As a standard protocol, I would like to introduce that I'm Jai Thakur, right? Many of you may know, many of you may not know. So currently I'm welcoming all of you in two sets of position. My first position is as an associate professor and head of exhibitions at CEPT University. So in that position, this is our third virtual exhibition in the last 5 months. So we have adopted to this whole new digital world to not only disseminate information at some point, but also to create a kind of a conducive platform to generate discourses, dialogue, debates, discussions, arguments, across basically design, craft, culture, built environment, and a lot of other subjects, which are associated to our society. My second role at this point is as a co-founder and executive director at Design Innovation and Craft Resource Center, DICRC, which is part of CEPT Research Development Foundation, CRDF. So in some sense, this is a very nostalgic time for all of us because DICRC was founded exactly 10 years ago in December 2010. So now we have actually basically finished an entire decade and I've come over here. When we started this, we started in a kind of a vaulted space. And I remember the time, when there was no furniture and we all sat on the ground, and did our work under this one single halogen. I used to come basically open up the center, close the center in the night, and a handful of people, So now we have actually come a long way from there. So we started DICRC with a primary intention to integrate traditional wisdom of Indian crafts with design and built environment education. Now, this was to bring not only value to both crafts and design, but also elevate both the fields and to bring contextualization to both of them. We largely work with three major domains at this point. So traditional and vernacular crafts, architecture, and furniture. We started in 2010 by kind of defining what is crafts or what is building crafts, and then moved to various other areas like mapping, documentation, research, did multiple set of workshops with craftspeople, with variety of other basically design team, technological team, training, product development. We also ventured into innovations, and developed multiple set of new methods and systems. We did exhibitions, seminars, advocacy, resource building. We also ventured into policy formulations. And most importantly, through all of our ventures, we developed valuable assets like workshop models, documentation strategies, mobile mapping systems, and craft design online lab. And 4 years back, what people are currently talking about in pandemic, we had actually done it basically 4 to 5 years back. We also developed multilateral research methods and various toolkits. Now, one thing that we basically realized while working with craftspeople, through all these years, is that they have such a wealth of knowledge, which are acquired through generations, through working with material, through tacit knowledge, through empirical methods, to oral traditions, and they share this knowledge with us without any hitch. They also don't talk about IPRs or copyrights or design registration at any point. Hence, we took a decision that throughout this 10 years, whatever the resources that we have basically developed, across all the different projects will be all put online. So everything we have done is currently in the public domain for the betterments of crafts and craftspeople. So when we started working, we were looking for some guiding principles or methods to do all our programs, So we're thinking that whether somebody could help us with, any kind of materials which is substantial enough to kind of start at the center. And we couldn't find anything much at that point. So we started evolving our own methods and recording them in a systematic manner to develop multiple models, which will benefit not only us, but all of those who are associated with crafts. So it was like leaving footprints behind, and somebody to follow, those footprints. So one of such model is the Craft Experiential Tourism Toolkit. This has evolved from our work in ground since past 6 years with the terracotta craft community of Gundiyali. The exhibition that you're going to witness is just a very small glimpse of love, emotions, sweat, interactions, experiences, knowledge, and specifically all those chai that we have shared with the humble craftspeople of Gundiyali in variety of weathers in Kutch. This exhibition is part of a project called Celebrating Clay, generating new forms of cultural production for craft experiential tourism. This project, supported by Crafting Futures India-UK collaboration scheme by the British Council. In this project, we partnered with Clay Foundation and the British Ceramic Biennial UK to conduct this project. But through this past 6 years, what has been very important is our association with Manthan Educational Program Society. So we started in Gundiyali with them, and we are still continuing. We really value this collaboration. Also in this project, Celebrating Clay, we have collaborated with ICT, Indian Ceramic Triennial, and IIID, that's Institute of Indian Interior Designers, Ahmedabad chapter. And IIID has also been valuable to us because they have supported some of our earlier ventures. Now, without much ado, I would like to give the baton to my colleague, Mansi Rao, to give you an insight into this wonderful life of terracotta craftspeople of Gundiyali. Over to you, Mansi. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. I think I must emphasize that much like
this exhibition, what I'm going to give you is also a very brief glimpse into the lives of the people of Gundiyali, and we hope that someday you're able to experience it by yourselves. To begin with, I would like to just set out a basic geographical and historical context of Gundiyali for those of us who are not aware of it. Gundiyali is a small village around 7 kilometers from Mandvi town, which was historically a major port and also home to a 400-year-old shipbuilding industry. Oral narratives in the region suggest that when a ship set out to sail for the first time, it would be filled with matkas made by the terracotta craftspeople of Gundiyali, since sending out an empty ship was considered inauspicious. This sort of gives a brief glimpse into the historical context of the terracotta craft of the region, and which till date is one of the most predominant crafts practiced in Kutch and in Gundiyali. I want to begin with sharing our experiences from our first visit to Gundiyali. It was a warm day in April, and our first interactions were with Yaqub Bhai, Ali Bhai, and the late Abdullah Bhai. And we experienced Gundiyali through the eyes of Abdullah Bhai, who took us on an extensive walk around the village. Walking through the village, we caught a glimpse of the traditions of Gundiyali. Most houses which have courtyards, one would see men working on the wheel and women who sat around and painted the matkas in red, black, and white natural colors, which is a distinct and unique symbol to the pottery of Kutch, particularly to the pottery of Gundiyali. While most families were making traditional products like matkas, cooking utensils like tavdi, kulhad, and handi, we also saw Gundiyali as a place of innovation, where craftspeople like Ali Bhai and his family were engaged in making water bottles, bird feeders, and crockery that had a more contemporary sensibility. Gundiyali for us has been the epitome of true-spirited hospitality. And like Jay mentioned, every time we entered anybody's house, a chai was offered almost like a mandate. Some served it in a kulhad and some served it in a saucer, but all made out of the mitti of Gundiyali that added a certain sweetness to the flavor. Over consequent visits and stays, I must admit that we have been treated to the best Kutchi food cooked on the earthen chulhas made by the families themselves. And the Kutchi buttermilk made in the matkas gave us our respite on the hot summer days during the last 6 years. The people of Gundiyali have a wealth of oral history to share with us. It's been 6 years and the stories never stop. Our learning hasn't ended, and our own understanding of Gundiyali continues to evolve and grow. It is a place steeped in history, a place where tangible and intangible aspects of heritage are strongly intertwined, a place where the connections of the past, the present, and the future are so evident, and the people are striving to make traditional knowledge relevant to the present world. Here, I want to return to the walk with Abdullah Bhai. We stopped at a kiln where 3 of the craftspeople in the village were arranging their matkas and their gulaks into a single kiln. And one of our team members curiously asked Abdullah Bhai how they differentiated each other's products when it was fired. To which Abdullah Bhai replied, "हर एक कारीगर का हाथ का निशान होता है. हम खुद के हाथ का निशान पहचान लेते हैं." Each potter's hands are different, and that the pots would bear their own signature style. He rhetorically added, "पर आप बताओ, अपना हाथ मिट्टी को आकार देता है या मिट्टी अपने हाथ को? Tell me if the hands shape the clay, or does the clay shape our hands?" And to this day, Abdullah Bhai's words and the various interactions with the craftspeople of Gundiyali have stayed with us as a reminder of 2 things. One, a craft is much beyond the materiality of its applications. It is about the intangible heritage that is embodied in the place and the people. Second, it is a reminder of the various spheres of influence we all have in shaping and being shaped by the world that we live in. These 2 trajectories have remained as guiding values for all the engagements we have embarked on with the people of Gundiyali. The intentions, the methods, and the frameworks of these engagements will further be highlighted by my colleague Rishabh Jain, who I now request to take on from here.
Thank you,
Over
Jay.
to you, Rishabh.
Thank you, Jay, for giving an overview of the work we do, and Mansi for introducing the community and refreshing all the memories of our visits. And I'm sure this is all because of the diverse, creative, and warm people of Gundiyali that we call it our home and work as such small, strongly knitted family. At DICRC, one of our key strengths have been conceptualizing systematic frameworks, developing models and toolkits. They're all devised in a way that they can be adapted, modified, altered, and applied to various craft clusters. With any project at hand, for us, the method of engagement is crucial. How do we do it? This not only helps us bring systematic methods in practice, but also allows the freedom of evolving with time, keeping our love for craft and craftspeople in the center. Back in 2014, we had started developing the first ever craft innovation training toolkit, the Ideas Toolkit, to discuss the need for innovation in craft and innovation by craft. A little later, we got introduced to the craft community of Gundiyali. We actually decided to implement the Ideas model and conduct a craft innovation training program in Gundiyali, the first one in 2015. We closely worked with two families, Abdullah Bhai's families and Yaqub Bhai families, and developed innovative prototypes. This first ever training program impacted not only two families, but also many other families were inquisitive of newer working methods and participated informally. This gave us a realization of how these toolkits could become replicable and scalable models to be applied at national and international levels. While working with these two families, we also got introduced to the rest of the communities. Each household filled with lots of hidden stories and narratives, a few like Mansi mentioned a while ago. And this spark gave rise to the development of our second model, the self-initiated challenge model, focusing on community-driven innovation. This model was conceptualized as a highly interacting working method, where the community took the lead to derive innovation in whatever they produced. A belief that we strongly follow in all our projects, keeping the craft community at the center and empowering them with new working methods. This was followed throughout many other projects, be it re-articulating the workspaces or conducting fellowship programs or exposing them to various national and international events and audiences. The constant engagement at grassroots levels, regular talks with the craftspeople and community at large fueled our beliefs that there is more to Gundiyali. And there is a huge impact both at the tangible and intangible level that could be seen on the ground. And this was the time when we started thinking to develop this craft cluster into a craft experiential tourism hub. Like Jay mentioned earlier, we developed the first ever tourism toolkit and named it as the Craft Experiential Tourism Toolkit. In this, the model focused on active participation of tourists in the craft ecosystem. This idea got further expanded, and we were indeed lucky to get this Crafting Futures project, which allowed us to develop Gundiyali into a craft experiential tourism hub. It is really interesting to see how throughout that entire engagement with Gundiyali either helped shape up the ideas being discussed in the toolkits or ended up creating new models and toolkits altogether. And on behalf of the entire DICRC team, I'm proud to say that these models and many other frameworks we developed during our engagements with Gundiyali have the potential to be replicated and scaled up at any craft cluster in the country. And we hope that this initiates many more discourses on craft experiences and working with craft communities across India, and indeed becomes a pioneer in the field. We will now have a virtual lamp lighting, formally inaugurating the exhibition. This will be followed by a walkthrough of the exhibition by our colleagues Radha Devpura, Bhargav Padyar, and Leena Jain. Towards the end, we will have a panel discussion with diverse experts on the idea of craft, communities, and methodological frameworks. Over to you, Payal and Harsh.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I am Radha Devpura, a research assistant at the Design Innovation and Craft Resource Center, CEPT University. We are here today to celebrate a collaborative journey of 6 years with the terracotta craft community of Gundiyali. The exhibition is titled Celebrating Gundiyali Beyond Clay. Our first introduction to the community was in 2014. It started with ethnographic research to document in detail the craft process, products, tools, and the lifestyle of craft community to understand the craft better and gauge potential for introducing initiatives. In 2015, the first craft innovation training program was initiated with Yakubhai Kumbhar and his family and Abdullahbhai Kumbhar and his family to evolve the craft practice outcomes into interior architecture elements, and further in exposing craftspeople to the contemporary markets, materials, and retail. Moving forward in 2016, we worked with the community encouraging a self-initiated craft innovation process at an individual level. This was delivered through the self-initiated community challenge cards, where theme and activity cards were used as ideation tools. In the year 2017, the concentration areas were reconfiguring habitat and integrating technology. Reconfiguring habitat was about restructuring workspaces to increase spatial efficiency, which was implemented at Yakubhai Kumbhar's house. Further, a digital archive system was developed which enabled to scan crafted artifacts and store them easily. Until now, the focus was on different aspects of the craft journey. In 2018, we went ahead to envision how the entire craft process can be seen in a larger context of an experience beyond tangible outputs, but as an experiential tourism catalyst. This gave birth to the idea of the Craft Experiential Tourism Toolkit, which was conceptualized this year. In 2019, we started taking the first step towards experiential tourism through the first ever Craft Collaborative Fellowship. It created a platform for the design fraternity to engage deeply with the craft practice and context and build product systems for contemporary life. The DICRC team had developed a detailed craft experiential tourism toolkit, which became the base for the next phase of the project. After this, we delved deeper into craft experiential tourism, which will be taken forward by my colleague Bhargav Padiyar, a researcher and new media designer.
Thank you, Radha. The year 2020 dwelled deeper into craft experiential tourism. The project Celebrating Clay was intended to generate new forms of cultural production for craft experiential tourism. This project was supported by the Crafting Futures program of the British Council, conducted by Design Innovation and Craft Resource Center, CRDF, CEPT University in India, in partnership with the Clay Foundation and British Ceramic Biennial, UK. Manthan Education Program Society India, Institute of Indian Interior Designers Ahmedabad Chapter, and Indian Ceramics Trinale were amongst the collaborators. This project looked at how craft experiential tourism can be brought into Gundiyali with the terracotta craft community in the picture. The first activity of the project included initiating a dialogue with the craft community to get them on board to discuss the initiative and interact with a large set of stakeholders, including artist collaborators across India and UK through video conferencing. Large number of craftspeople, men as well as women makers, participated in this. To begin the experiential tourism with the crafts in picture, we began collecting oral narratives related to culture, history, and physical context, which were documented and translated for better accessibility. A drone photogrammetry documentation was done to map the village as well. The next step was an international residency where artists from the UK were to visit and stay in Gundiyali to collaborate with the craft community. However, due to global pandemic, this was not possible. Hence, to keep the conversation going, we conceptualized a knowledge exchange program, which was planned with expert speakers in India and the UK. The themes included design for diverse markets, storytelling through digital mediums, and global and local trends. The program were planned spanning from registration, dissemination, activities, discussions, and final activities. Over 80 craftspeople across all age groups and gender participated in the program. To encourage leadership and initiative abilities in the community, two young craftspeople, Shakur Kumbar and Yasser Kumbar, were immersed into the field activities as anchors, who coordinated the entire program with the team. The program was conducted on WhatsApp and YouTube, from registration process, delivery, and to discussions. In the first program, there were 5 experts who shared their experience with designing for diverse markets. Speakers included Snehal Kashikar, Riaz Badruddin, Sumiran Pandya, Vikas Gupta, and Shreya Alok Gupta. Further, there were one-to-one discussions with the craftspeople, leading to different kinds of outcomes, including miniature products, context-specific products like large pot for Ran Utsav by Shakina Bain, or even murals and tiles. The second program was about storytelling through digital mediums. The knowledge exchange was internal with the community through a tacit exchange between young craftspeople who are technically forward and the elder craftspeople who are well immersed into cultural practices. This also had 7 speakers adapt in different forms of storytelling. Speakers included Aparna Jaishankar, Ela Mukherjee, Jigna Vyas, Nisha Vikram, Nidhi Kamath, Kea Vaswani, Kumar Manish, and Wasim Samadji. One of the most inspiring outcomes is of women craftspeople, including Rukhsana Bain, a master craftswoman, Amina Bain, showing their process of making plates and patterns. This also gave skills to young artisans to voice their experience and stories out to the world. The third program was reimagined as a residency through digital platforms, Groundwork. This became a responsive exchange of thoughts, ideas, stories, interests, and artifacts using different cues between craftspeople in Gundiyali and artists in UK, including Peter Jones, Joe Eyre, Gabriella Rhodes, Stephen Dixon, along with artists in India, with Riaz Badruddin and Warli artist Ramesh Hengadi and Rasika Hengadi. The chain of responses were generated. Interesting crafted outputs were like the story of Gundiyali through Warli painting, decorative plates, and abstract aesthetic arrangements of elements that bring out life in material still life. Further, heading back into the larger cultural and physical context, we collated stories and documentation from Gundiyali into different trails, with which visitors could experience Gundiyali with a deeper engagement. We created a digital story map to help visitors navigate this area. All these points are interactive. Let's visit a few. Here is the lime plastered stepwell, which is one of the oldest structure in Gundiyali, acting as an archaeological evidence. Then there is the Gundiya Mata Mandir, which is a historical site. The village was named after the goddess in the temple. Further is the craft space where Yakubai Kumbar works and stay with the family. This is an interesting space that can accommodate hands-on pottery sessions for visitors. This space was re-articulated in 2017 for better spatial efficiency.
I have to get.
The Kumbar Masjid is another spot, which is the community's religious gathering place. Here is where Ahmad Bhai Kumbar stays with his family, where you can see the transfer of tacit knowledge between the young generation and the older generation. Moving further, we would talk about the craft community in detail. My colleague Leena Jain, a design researcher, will now carry the conversation further.
Thank you, Bhargav. Now let's talk about the craft community. The project documented the lives of more than 80 people across 21 craft families. These families practice the craft collectively as familial units. There is a diversity in style and product range across the community, including contemporary forms, innovative systems, as well as traditional forms. One of these families includes Ali Mamad Kumbar, Sher Banu Kumbar, Anwar Bhai Kumbar, Yasser Kumbar, Ruxana Kumbar, and Imran Kumbar. Ali Mamad Kumbar is one of the most dexterous craftspeople in the community and is known for making bottles and small miniatures. Another craft family includes Suleiman Kumbar, Salim Kumbar, late Jiluben Kumbar, and Jamila Ben Kumbar. Suleiman Bhai is one of the most knowledgeable craftspeople in the community and has a deep engagement with cultural history, making him adept at traditional making practices. Jiluben also made large plates. Another family is of Amina Bai Kumbar. She is the only craftsperson in the village who makes 2.5 feet diameter large flat plates which are sold nationally to heritage properties and hotels for elaborate tabletops. Further, the community was also a part of an academic studio at CEPT University. The studio was titled Reimagining the Vernacular. This was conducted at the Faculty of Design by Professor Jay Thakkar. The students conducted field visits, interviews, and contextual mapping while staying with the community to experience the day-to-day life. Several tangible graphical outcomes were produced through this by individual students, including graphic novels, board games, and narrative maps. As we go further, we can see a collection of resources developed over the course of 6 years to disseminate outcomes of the projects and knowledge gathered. There are detailed reports which trace the contextual process of our work with Gundiyali in different phases. There are also toolkits that act as ready reckoners to guide organizations in working collaboratively with craft communities across the country. The Craft Innovation Training Toolkit is based on the IDEAS model, which gears a community for innovation through various delivery methods and collaborative practices. The self-initiated community challenge model facilitates an organization in encouraging the community in working with ideation queues in the form of theme and action cards in this case, to develop individual ideas leading to products or product systems. The Craft Experiential Tourism Toolkit is to gear craft clusters into experiential tourism hubs through 5 different stages, guiding on how to get involved with the community, how to build self-sustaining systems within the community by cultivating leadership. The 6 years of this journey have been a rewarding time, and more than 80 individuals from different parts of the world and diverse professional backgrounds have been a part of the initiatives. This project wouldn't have been possible without the plethora of organizations supporting different phases that helped us in connecting with people. We are deeply grateful for all the support, contribution, and immense goodwill that we've garnered over the course of this collaboration. The craft will continue to emerge and grow as the community takes further steps. As we discuss the project and think of the future of craft, we can take Gundiyali as one of the emerging spots for craft tourism. For exploring Gundiyali further, you can visit it by clicking this link here on the wall or by visiting www.celebratinggundiyali.com, which houses detailed information about the engagements, about the community, the village, as well as a repository of resources. Thank you so much for taking out your time with us today as we move to imagining better futures for crafts in the larger context of the world.
Thank you, Bhargav, Radha, and Leena for such a detailed walkthrough. I'm going to quickly take you to the next important event of the evening, which is actually a panel discussion. And I will introduce to you the panel members that are going to share with us their views on the idea of craft, experiences, and also methodological frameworks. We have Ali Muhammad Daud Kumbar and Saleh Muhammad Kumbar, who are 2 master craftspeople from Kutch, Gundiyali region itself. We have Professor Stephen Dixon. He is a professor of contemporary crafts at the Manchester School of Art, UK. We have Jay Thakkar, Executive Director and Head of Exhibitions at DICRC and CEPT. We have Jonathan Kennedy, who is Director Arts, India, British Council. We have Barney Head Duke, who is the Artistic Director of the British Ceramic Biennale in UK. We have Katya Stewart. She is the Global Program Manager for the Crafting Futures, the British Council's Global Program. And we have Katan Kothari, who is the coordinator at the Manthan Educational Program Society, India. And I'm Rishabh, who will be moderating the session. We will be doing this session in a mix of 2 languages. We will have both Hindi and probably sometimes Gujarati and English. हम लोग ये सेशन हिंदी, गुजराती और इंग्लिश तीनों भाषाओं में करेंगे. मेरा सबसे पहला जो सवाल है मैं अली भाई से पूछना चाहूँगा. अली भाई, क्या आप अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं? पायल, क्या आप अली भाई को स्पॉटलाइट कर? हाँ, अली भाई आप सुन सकते हैं मेरी आवाज? आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही. अली भाई, आपको अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा.
पायल, can you do that, please? आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है अली भाई.
वहां पे नीचे अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा, आई थिंक.
अली भाई, आपना फोन में જે જગ્યાએ ચાલુ છે તેની નીચે તમારો વિડિયો છે એની નીચે અનમ્યુટ નું બટન હશે, માઇક જેવું દોરેલું હશે, એની ઉપર ક્લિક કરશો એટલે અનમ્યુટ થશે.
હા અલીભાઈ, વિડિયો કેમેરાનું જે બટન છે ને એની બાજુમાં એક માઇકનું ઓપ્શન છે જે હમણાં લાલ છે, એને તમે દબાવશો તો એ છે ને ગ્રે થઈ જશે. હા, એને તમે એકવાર દબાવી દો, તમારો અવાજ સંભળાશે. હા, માઇકનું જે ઓપ્શન છે ને.
હેલો અલીભાઈ. હેલો.
હા, સંભળાયું.
अली भाई उनके है ना मोबाइल की टच कर खाली हाथ से टच करने उनमें माइक जो ऑप्शन अची दो माइक में लाल चौकड़ी लगल हूंदी
अली भाई कुछ कहेंगे सुन हम
बोलो गुजराती
बोलो
कौन सी लैंग्वेज उसको
आया आवाज आया
हाँ अभी अली
हाँ बोलो
अली भाई
वहाँ पे तो इस लैंग्वेज में लोग बात करते हैं
અલીભાઈ આપ પાછા મ્યુટ પર જતા રહ્યા છો આપે પાછું એ બટન દબાવવું પડશે અને પછી બોલો
हाँ परफेक्ट अली भाई हाँ अभी अली भाई मेरा आपसे एक छोटा सा सवाल ऐसा है कि आप
हाँ
अली भाई आपको सुन रहा है मेरे बारे
हाँ सुन रहा है बिल्कुल
अली भाई मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ कि हम आपसे लगभग 5 ज्यादा टाइम के लिए जुड़े हुए हैं
हाँ हाँ
हमारे कुछ पिछले सालों के बारे में कुछ अपना एक्सपीरियंस बताएंगे और कम्युनिटी के साथ क्या बदलाव आए क्या लोगों में इम्पैक्ट है उसके बारे में थोड़ा बताएंगे हमें
हाँ तो 6 साल से जो आपका हमारे साथ जो प्रोग्राम चल रहा है जहाँ तक बदलाव की बात है तो बदलाव तो आया है और आएगा भी जब इतना सब जो हो रहा है जैसे वैसे तो प्रोग्राम हम एक साथ करने वाले थे यूके के और हम मिलके उसमें अच्छा मजा था लेकिन ये हो गया कुदरती बस तो उसकी वजह से हमको ऑनलाइन प्रोग्राम लेना पड़ा तो ऑनलाइन के जरिए भी प्रोग्राम तो हमारा हुआ है और इसमें जो आप पूछ रहे हैं कि बदलाव आया या नहीं तो बदलाव तो आया भी है और आएगा भी क्योंकि इस प्रोग्राम में बच्चों को भी शामिल किया गया है
बिल्कुल
तो वो जो अपनी जो छोटी छोटी प्रोडक्ट्स जैसी भी बनाई है वैसे भी अच्छी बनाई है वो अपनी प्रोडक्ट्स खुद ऑनलाइन पे आपने देखा और सिर्फ खुद नहीं देखा बल्कि मैं तो कहूंगा कि दुनिया वालों ने भी देखा उनके प्रोडक्ट्स तो उसका एक हौसला तो बुलंद हुआ है और जो ड्रोन का जो प्रोग्राम हुआ गांव में तो वो तो मान लीजिए कि गांव में एक हलचल मच गई क्योंकि पहली दफा वो प्रोग्राम हो रहा था ना ड्रोन का कुछ लोगों को पता भी नहीं था कि ये क्या उड़ रहा है बाद में पता चला कि ये कुंभार लोगों में एक एनजीओ करके सेप्ट एनजीओ करके और मंथन एनजीओ करके जो है वो प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं उनको ट्रेनिंग दे रहे हैं वो ये ड्रोन लेके आए हैं और गांव पे उड़ा रहे हैं कि क्या क्या है इधर तो उससे पूरे गांव में भी एक अच्छा लगा उन सभी को भी और खास करके पोटर कम्युनिटी को जो नई जनरेशन है जो नई पीढ़ी है जो उसको भी इसमें अच्छा लगा है
बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है सुन के
हाँ और अगर मार्केटिंग की बात करें इसके प्रोग्राम के जरिए के मार्केटिंग के बारे में क्या सुझाव आया या क्या इससे सीखने को कारीगरों को मिला तो काफी मिला जैसे कई जो पोर्टर स्टूडियो अपने अनुभव अलग अलग प्रोग्रामों में जो बताए तो वो कोई पैकेजिंग का बताया कोई कैसी हमको अगर इंटरनेशनल या नेशनल मार्केट के लेवल पे जो हम जो अपनी जो आर्ट बनाए तो कैसी आर्ट होनी चाहिए उसी की फिनिशिंग क्या होनी चाहिए उसकी जो एक अपने जो आर्ट है अपने आप में एक स्टोरी होती है उसकी भी बगैर स्टोरी की नहीं होती वो खास करके अगर पुराने अगर हम चीजों को देखें तो
बिल्कुल
तो उसके पीछे की स्टोरी हम जो कस्टमर को बताना है हमको अगर क्योंकि इसके जो कॉस्ट अच्छी हमको लेना है तो हमको भी आर्टिस्ट को भी मेहनत करना पड़ेगा सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि आप सिर्फ मेहनत करोगे और आर्टिस्ट बैठा रहेगा तो ये नामुमकिन है ये
बिल्कुल अली भाई
हाँ दोनों तरफ से हाथ बढ़ना चाहिए एक हाथ से ताली नहीं बजती है अगर आर्टिस्ट को अगर आगे जाना है तो
बहुत अच्छा लगा आपसे उनके मैं थोड़ा ट्रांसलेट करता हूँ सबके लिए बताने के लिए
ठीक है
quickly summarize of course what Ali bhai has said is quite probably quite I would say philosophical at the same time and difficult to translate immediately but I think he's saying that talking about the impact he's saying the impact definitely has been there and also he's saying that the impact is yet to be seen that it's just a beginning of a journey And also very interestingly, he's saying that since this projects or the other programs that we conducted, and specifically the last year, included a lot of young craftspeople, that has really, really helped gain some more attention to the craft by the younger generation as well. And he said that I'm not sure what they've made is really good or not. Is it the best of the best things? But it's still there. And and they're proud of it because they're sharing it on social media, they're sharing it with other people. He also shared another thing. He said that the drone that we did as part of the Crafting Futures program got really, really excited the entire community. Everybody was looking at what's happening, why are they doing this photography, and it was never done before. So he says that immediately there was an attention to the terracotta craft community, to the entire area, and everybody was talking about who is doing this and why are they doing it. He also talked about towards the later part that he said that the fact that also these training programs, the knowledge exchange programs that we conducted, the three of them, talking about the idea of design and storytelling and also about the trends, gave them an insight on really how do you market your products, how do you really price your products, how do you tell stories about the products. And something that's really the crux of the conversation, and he says you know what, you can do whatever, but if we don't receive it, it will not really help. So it is also our responsibility as a community, as craftspeople, to take this journey forward and really work hand in hand. If he said that if you will do what you have to do and go away, and if we don't do and reciprocate, it will not really help. So I think that's a really interesting conversation that we started with. I'm going to move to Saleh Mohammad Bhai. और मैं नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन पे जा रहा हूँ. साले मोहम्मद भाई से पूछना चाहता हूँ कि ये जितने भी लोग हैं यहाँ पे, साले मोहम्मद भाई, उन्होंने गुंदियाली के बारे में काफी कुछ सुना है, काफी कुछ देखा है, और गुंदियाली की कला के बारे में, टेराकोटा क्राफ्ट के बारे में काफी कुछ सुना है. तो आप कुछ बताइए कि क्या खासियत है गुंदियाली की कला की, गुंदियाली की क्राफ्ट की, गुंदियाली की मिट्टी, ये सब जल्दी से जल्दी.
हेलो,
हाँ सुन रहे साले मोहम्मद भाई.
देखो, गुंदियाली की कला की है तो ये एक तो ये कि अलग है कि उसका मटका है ना, हर तरह का मटका बनाते हैं. आप हर डिजाइन में चाहिए उसका मटका बनाते हैं. और इस पे जो पेंटिंग करते हैं ना, वो पूरी दुनिया में अलग है पेंटिंग इसकी. पूरे मटकों में हर मटके की अलग अलग पेंटिंग आती है. जिसमें आपको छाछ डालना हो तो उसकी भी पेंटिंग अलग आएगी, पानी डालना हो तो उसकी भी पेंटिंग अलग आएगी, अगर आपको कुछ और चूल्हे पे चढ़ाना है तो उसकी भी पेंटिंग अलग आएगी. इसलिए है ना गुंदियाली बहुत मशहूर हुआ है.
सही बात है.
और हर चीज का अलग अलग मटका होता है. जैसे आपको खाना बनाने के लिए चाहिए तो उसका भी अलग मटका आएगा, पानी पीने के लिए चाहिए तो उसका भी मटका अलग आएगा, उसके भी डिजाइन अलग आएगा, और जो भी छाछ डालते हैं उसका भी मटका अलग आएगा. तो इस सब मटकों के ना बहुत अलग अलग कहानियां है. जिस तरह आपको छाछ ऐसे निकालनी है तो उस छाछ ऐसे कटोरी में जाएगी कि वो लीक नहीं होगी, मतलब उसके मुंह से कहीं और नहीं जाएगी, सीधी कटोरी में आएगी. तो उसका डिजाइन ऐसा बनाया गया है.
अच्छा, और साले मोहम्मद भाई, और भी आप जैसे पहले बता रहे थे कि जो प्रोडक्ट है, मतलब कितने तरह के, एक तो मटका गुंदियाली का फेमस है, सब सारी दुनिया गुंदियाली को मटके से जानती है, बट अभी तो इतने नए प्रोडक्ट भी बन रहे हैं, तो उसके बारे में आपका क्या विचार है?
देखो, नए प्रोडक्ट तो बनने ही चाहिए. अभी नया जमाना आया है तो नए प्रोडक्ट भी बनना चाहिए, मगर पुराने को छोड़ना भी नहीं चाहिए.
सही बात है.
पुराना है वो जारी रखना चाहिए. अभी लॉकडाउन हुआ कोरोना में, तो हम और अली भाई और सब ये बनाते हैं, छोटा छोटा चीज बनाते हैं. तो मैं तो फिर मटके पे आ गया. कोरोना में फिर मटके पे आना पड़ा, क्योंकि ये काम छोड़ना नहीं चाहिए. कोई भी पुराना काम आप छोड़िए मत उसको.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
आगे आपको कहीं ना कहीं फायदा देगा ये.
ठीक है, थैंक यू साले मोहम्मद भाई. मैं ट्रांसलेट करता हूँ सबको बताने के लिए. I'll again try my best to translate what Saleh Mohammad Bhai was just sharing. I think he just shared that Gundiyali is so popular for one specific, earthen pot, which is the matka. And he's saying that such a big kind of a variety that's available. You name it and for a function, and you will have a different form. You will have a different, pattern over it. So you have different pot for storing water. You have different pot for storing buttermilk. You have different pots for storing other food goods. And is also saying that you will not find such craftsmanship and the pattern, the kind of patterns that Gundiyali does. You will not find it anywhere in the world. He's also very interestingly said, because I asked him, I said, but also there are many new products. So what about them? He said that, well, I know that there are many more products that one needs to make, but at the same time, one cannot forget traditions. And, one cannot forget the history or the importance of products that have lots and lots of stories with them. So it's interesting to see that he said during the lockdown in Corona, in COVID, how their entire craft ecosystem also got, sort of not changed, but altered in a way that many people who were making other products also started coming back and making matkas again because the demand was there. So it's quite interesting to see a very, I would say, rooted perspective. And I'm short of time, so I'm going to move to Steve. Steve, are you there? Are you able to connect with us now? Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yes. Steve, I think I'm going to ask you a quick question that, you practice in UK, you work as a potter or as a ceramist or, as a craftsman there, and you've never been to Gundiyali physically, you've only experienced it digitally. Can you share some experiences of yours while working with and making with the community of Gundiyali through these virtual mediums?
Sure, yes. I'd like to share something about international exchange residencies and collaboration in the particular context of the Gundiyali exchange. I've had the pleasure of working with Dicrc and the British Ceramics Biennial in the past on a project in India, the Heartbeat project in Maharashtra. The difference this time, the challenge for the Gundiyali project was to try and capture some of the excitement of that exchange residency in the time of COVID, when we couldn't physically go there as visiting artists. So the challenge really was how to capture all the fantastic things about doing a residency, experiencing the differences in practice from one culture and community to another, the tactile experience of being in a different place, in a different context, and that sense of history and tradition and locality that one gets being in a different place. I think for potters from the UK, the very exciting thing about India is that sense of an unbroken pottery tradition. We in the UK have had an industrial revolution that's kind of put a gap between traditional ceramic making through industrialization, and there's that lovely thing in India where those old traditional skills are still happening and are still live. Just seeing some of those films of the clay being hacked from the ground was fabulous. It's so different to us in the UK going to a supplier and buying it in a bag. So there's extraordinary difference. There is a lovely thing to see on the ground. So that was the challenge. The solution was to come up with a digital knowledge exchange, a digital residency, which the teams at CEPT and BCB took on. That was initially done through sharing films. So the artists in the UK shared films with the community in Gundiyali, showed our studio, showed where we worked, showed the kind of things we made. And that was done through videos and through a long sequence of photos that were constantly coming back from Gundiyali, which is just a fantastic resource for that collaboration. From my own perspective, I particularly love the video tours around Gundiyali and just seeing all those things happening in people's own spaces on the ground. The other interesting part of the solution was the setting of tasks, where we shared tasks and requested information, just as a way of developing that ongoing communication and imbuing a sense of experimentation in the project. And then the outcomes, which captured the physicality of ceramics in Gundiyali. Things like I just mentioned, the hacking of clay out of the ground, the making of clay from the powder that was ground from the clay from the ground. The responses to the tasks were fantastic. That constant influx of beautiful, fantastic photographs coming from Gundiyali. I loved the response to the tasks that Rayaz set around still life. I thought they were particularly successful. And Pete Jones's film, which kind of summarized all of that incoming information of making pots in Gundiyali, I thought was also a fantastic outcome. For me, the task I set around images of Gundiyali, the unexpected thing that came out of that was the way people responded through making relief drawings, which I hadn't expected at all. So that was a fantastic outcome. So I feel, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop now, I'm going on too long, but I feel like we've begun a really interesting dialogue through the digital exchange, and I hope we can continue that conversation in the future.
That's so kind of you, Steve. I'm going to again translate a little bit in Hindi. It does get lost in translation, so excuse me for that. Ali bhai और सालेम अहमद भाई और सब बाकी लोग, स्टीव ऐसा कहना चाह रहे हैं कि उनको बहुत अच्छा लगा कि जो उन्होंने पिछले एक साल सेप्ट DICRC और मंथन और BCB के साथ जो प्रोजेक्ट किया, उनको ये बहुत अच्छा लगा कि इंडिया में जो क्राफ्ट ट्रेडिशंस हैं या जो कलाएं हैं वो अभी भी एकदम जुड़ी हुई हैं मॉडर्न लाइफस्टाइल्स के साथ. जैसे उन्होंने कुछ वीडियोस देखी, गुंदियाली में कारीगर लोग जाके गांव में से मिट्टी खुद लेके आ रहे हैं. वहां पे उनके यूके में वाकई जाके सिर्फ एक दुकान से मिट्टी लेके आनी पड़ती है, एक डीलर से. तो उनको वो बहुत अच्छा लगा. उनको डिजिटल रेसिडेंसी जो हमने किया, उनका भी मन था कि वो आ पाते इंडिया, बट पैंडेमिक के कारण वो नहीं आ पाए. बट उनको उसके बारे में बहुत अच्छा लगा कि जो हम लोग डिजिटली व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में कनेक्टेड थे और आप सब उनको फोटोज भेज रहे थे और उसका वो रिस्पॉन्ड करते थे. और उन्होंने जो उनको रियाज के टास्क का जो आप लोगों ने सबने ड्राइंग बनाए वो बहुत अच्छे लगे. और उन्होंने नहीं सोचा था कि उनके टास्क में जो आप लोग रिप्लाई में रिलीफ वर्क की जो टाइल्स बनाओगे, तो वो उनके लिए कुछ नया था. ओवरऑल आई थिंक स्टीव ने ये भी कहा कि वो चाहते हैं कि ये एसोसिएशन कंटिन्यूड रहे, चाहे डिजिटली चाहे वो कभी आए, तो हम लोग हमेशा जुड़े रहें. Jay, I'm going to quickly go to you just to ask you, because like Steve mentioned, it's been a challenging year because we all planned to do a physical residency and we could not. But I'm sure I'll agree, and you will agree with me and others as well, that we managed to really work pretty hard and develop a new model of engaging with communities digitally. So how do you think really that this project would initiate new ways of engaging with craft communities?
Yeah, thank you, Rishabh. So I'm going to spare you the translation.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll do both basically at this point. Because in some sense it is like a movie lost in translation. You know, a lot of things basically goes blur. And one of the best part about this entire, we are absolutely optimistic. Okay, I am the optimistic, and even my team basically at some point. And the way we saw pandemic was basically not as a disaster, but rather as an opportunity to bring out what new things can come in. So हमने ये pandemic कैसे देखा? हमने basically आशावादी होके देखा कि ये pandemic से हम नया क्या कर सकते हैं और नया क्या सीख सकते हैं. So what happened with this entire pandemic, that working with Gundiyali has always been in a more physical, or with any craft cluster it has been, because the tacit knowledge becomes extremely important. Now I'm very sure that the entire basically digital residency, the kind of knowledge exchange program that we did, if we would have done that last year, because we had those kind of means and methods to do that, I think so people would not be open to this whole idea, you know, of actually doing something on WhatsApp, you know, something which is as simple medium which has been there since so many years. तो मैं ये बताना चाहूंगा कि ये पेंडेमिक में जो हमने पूरा रेसिडेंसी किया, पूरा नॉलेज एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम किया, जो व्हाट्सएप के जरिए किया, वो अगर हमने पिछले साल किया होता, अगर ये कोरोना नहीं होता, तो मुझे लगता नहीं कि इतने सारे लोग उसमें भाग ले पाते और भाग लेने की इच्छा भी रखते, you know. So in that sense, this entire basically somewhere we see the pandemic as a kind of an opportunity which has opened up, which has blurred the boundaries. Now, the blurred the boundaries not only between basically as a physical boundaries between regions, right, or between countries at this point, because we were able to actually transgress this knowledge across the kind of globe, but also between various professions. So we were able to actually bring so many different people who are able to share their body of knowledge through this. तो मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि हमारी जो बेसिकली रेखाएं बाउंड्रीज जो काफी ब्लर हो गई, यानी कि हम ये बातें बाजू वाले के साथ भी कर सकते हैं या यूके में बैठे हुए आर्टिजन के साथ भी हम लोग ये कर सकते हैं। तो ये इसके कारण हम बहुत सारे और लोगों को भी इसमें अंदर ला सके, ये प्रोग्राम के साथ जुड़ सके। So the way I see this is that we see this as a promising model, in some sense basically a hybrid model that will evolve as we start going further, post the COVID situation. And I think that is the kind of a plus point of this entire even project, and this project has given us an opportunity to do that. तो मैं ये बताना चाहूंगा कि ये कोरोना के बाद, ये कोविड के बाद भी हम लोग फिजिकली आपके वहां आएंगे जरूर, पर ये वाला मॉडल जैसे हम व्हाट्सएप से कर रहे हैं, जैसे हम डिजिटल कर रहे हैं, वीडियो कॉल से कर रहे हैं, वो वाला प्रोसेस भी चालू रखेंगे ताकि हम दुनिया भर के आर्टिस्ट और आर्टिजन और क्राफ्ट पीपल के साथ काम कर सके। धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Thanks, Jay. You might please want to help me with translation maybe at a later stage as well. I'm going to ask Jonathan. I think Jonathan, like Jay was also mentioning that although because of this pandemic, this new engagement of engaging digitally really helped fuel another kind of energy in the project. And of course, we would like to thank British Council's Crafting Futures program for helping us, do what we did. So how do you really see that the British Council's Crafting Futures program could impact the craft communities across India? So if you could share some views on that.
I think just what you've shown to us speaks for itself in so many ways. I'm totally blown away by what you've shown with the exhibition, but also just listening to the crafts people speaking in their own words about what they've gained from the project and from working with innovation and agility with colleagues in the UK and at CEPT as well. It absolutely speaks for itself. What you have done is show the innate innovation, flexibility, imagination that exists in artists. And that's really what the artisans are. You're artists making things that are both of the land, but are also really practical and beautiful. And I'm totally struck by some of the things that have been said. There's such poetry in what you're saying, leaving a footprint behind. The terracotta pots being sent on a ship as it sets sail, craft making the hand and handmade by the clay itself. So much to take away from this, and look forward to, as I think we all will who's watching this conversation now, look forward to watching the exhibition in our own time and going to it later. And then when COVID and the pandemic allows, going to Gundiyali to really experience the amazing skill of crafts that is so abundant from what we've just seen this afternoon. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think in a nutshell, Jonathan कहना चाह रहे हैं कि उन्होंने जो काम देखा उनसे बहुत वो सरप्राइज या अचंभित हुए। उन्होंने देखा कि कितनी तरह का काम इस प्रोजेक्ट के हमने किया है। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि ये सब पॉसिबल हुआ है क्योंकि I'm a bit worried about that, क्योंकि ये सब पॉसिबल हुआ है क्योंकि आर्टिजन्स जो हैं उन्होंने बहुत ही अच्छे से साथ दिया और उनका क्रिएटिव माइंड जो है किसी चीज को बनाने का उसके इस्तेमाल के कारण उन्होंने जो अलग अलग चीजें देखी। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि जो हम लोगों ने अभी एग्जीबिशन से पहले जय और मानसी ने जो बताया अपने पैर छोड़ने की बात या फिर अब्दुल्ला भाई की कहानियों की बात या फिर क्या मिट्टी हमें हाथ से मिट्टी को शेप करते हैं कि मिट्टी हमें शेप करती है, वो बात से वो बहुत प्रभावित हुए और वो बहुत एक्साइटेड है कि जब भी ये पैंडेमिक खत्म हो तो जल्द ही गुंदियाली एक्सपीरियंस कर सके और जल्दी आप लोगों के साथ आके जुड़ सके। और ऐसे ही अलग अलग communities के साथ वो काम करते रहे. My next question is going to be to Barney. Barney, I think we were ideating a physical residency when we started conceptualizing this project. And like already, I think Jay, Steve, and Jonathan mentioned, we were, we did a very new, fresh, first ever digital residency. So how do you really think, this could really blur the boundaries between geographical, either across geographies or cultures, and really give way to new engagements of these kinds?
Yeah, that's a bit of a big question, Rishabh. But yeah, as people have said, the kind of the original idea of the residency exchange is built on that idea of a kind of total immersion, if you like, a close and intimate engagement between the artists and people and place, which would be conducted over, an intensive period of time. And as we've all been saying, it wasn't possible to do that, to deliver that in this project because of the COVID crisis and the restrictions that imposed. But what we've seen here and heard now of what was possible is really kind of demonstrated that there was a level of communication, there was an experience of exchange, and there has been a sharing of outcomes, which has been possible all through the use of digital platforms, which, and I have to say, I'm been like Jonathan, I was blown away. I'm impressed by what I've seen that through your exhibition and through what people have been saying about all of that. I'm also, I have to say, I'm kind of doubly frustrated now by the fact that we weren't able to go as a team and visit physically in person, because wow, wouldn't that have been brilliant? But and I mustn't overstate this, but the residency was only going to be a small part of this much bigger conceptual project. But what has happened here in a small way within this project, I suppose, has done what you were just referring to, Jay. It's revealed for the potential of the value for further working and developing and experimenting with the digital and with digital engagement between the artists and creative practitioners, and with digital engagement with audiences and markets. And this is really important now, particularly in our changing world. Again, as people have said, because the digital is not limited by geography. The value of international and cross-cultural working is even more important now than ever in the context of isolated lives, because the digital is a way of reaching out and building creative practice through sharing and sustaining the artist's needs to be engaged in the world, continuing to explore new ideas, new people, new opportunities, whilst also being grounded in the local. The digital platforms, which are screen-based, are also offering a kind of more democratic and more level playing field, if you like, cutting across the hierarchies of practice, but also cutting across, again, it's a point you mentioned, Jay, across the disciplines, the discipline restrictions of practice. And as a saying that the digital extends the experience of engagement to wider audiences. This can be, I would say, a really, through further use and deploying of the digital skills, it become a critical tool for developing markets, raising awareness and understanding of the value of craft and craft practice, which is ultimately the key, I would say, to the sustainability of crafts and crafts globally. reflecting Alibai's words, I feel we are at the beginning of this journey of the kind of finding the new ways of working and finding creative and resourceful ways of employing the digital technologies, not to replace the real value of the physical and material interaction that we still all crave and need, but to bring an added value to enriching and extending exposure through, I hope, what will be, as you described, a hybrid model that we all have a collective responsibility for taking forward.
And it's almost going to be impossible for me to translate it, because what you said really is, I think is the feeling that we all have. But in a sense, in a nutshell, I think the apprehension was there with all of us. And I'm glad that we were able to manage and navigate through the year with such conviction. बारनी भाई का ने काफी कुछ कहा, वो सब कुछ शायद मैं इतने छोटे कम समय में ट्रांसलेट नहीं कर पाऊं, तो मैं ज्यादा लंबा कोशिश नहीं करूंगा. बट उनका कहने का मतलब ये था कि अगर जब हम रेसिडेंसी पहले करने वाले थे तो हम फिजिकली गुंदियाली आने वाले थे, और जब हमें पता चला कि हम नहीं आ पाएंगे तो एक बुरा लगा कि हम नहीं जा सकेंगे, और कुछ विश्वास नहीं था कि शायद ये सही होगा कि नहीं होगा, क्योंकि हमने ऐसे पहले कभी कुछ किया नहीं है. बट उनको अब आज का काम देखने के बाद, सबका अली भाई की बात सुनने के बाद, पहले की बातें सुनने के बाद ऐसा लग रहा है कि और भी गुस्सा चढ़ रहा है कि काश हम सब गुंदियाली में होते और ये सब काम साथ में कर रहे होते. बट उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि इसके साथ फायदा ये हुआ है कि अब हम ऑनलाइन माध्यम से एक बहुत सारी ज्यादा ऑडियंस है, या बहुत बड़े लोग हैं, बहुत ज्यादा नंबर ऑफ लोगों के साथ जुड़ सकते हैं, बहुत सारी आउटरीच बढ़ सकती है, नई मार्केटें बन सकती हैं, नए कनेक्शंस बन सकते हैं. तो उनका बहुत बहुत एक फायदा हुआ है कि ये ऑनलाइन किया. और उन्होंने ये कहा कि अली भाई, जैसे आपने कहा कि फायदा होने वाला है और होगा भी, और उनका ये कहना है कि ये सिर्फ एक शुरुआत है और वो बहुत देर तक ये हम लोग करेंगे और साथ में करेंगे ताकि हम ये रिलेशनशिप को आगे बढ़ा सके और आगे कई नए मॉडल्स या नए तरीके ऑनलाइन रेसिडेंसी या फिर डिजिटल एक्सचेंज के बारे में बात कर सके. Katia, I'm going to pick up on what Barney was saying, and he talked about the idea of hybrid models, and he talked about really blurring the boundaries, like which was mentioned earlier by Jay as well. So and you come from the UK, and how do you see the crafts and craft sector of India within the larger context of the creative and cultural industries across the globe?
It's an interesting question. Thank you. I think I have to just start by saying what an incredible project, and just what an incredible case study of a project that Crafting Futures has been involved in. We're working in 20 different countries, and for me, this is a really incredible case study. And although the pandemic has kind of forced us to innovate where we might not have, I think it has produced these sort of new models and new methods of working. And yeah, just what a brilliant case study. And I think sometimes, when craft is so embedded in a culture and embedded in a history and a place, I think there's potential for fear of such intervention and projects, even in person. And so I think actually what's essential is to that we realize that you can value local wisdom at the same time as innovating and thinking of new ways of working, and you don't lose that local wisdom or skill. It's just about bringing a different approach. And I think that's for craft to continue in communities all over the world, we need to be doing that to inspire the next generation as well. And I think that was mentioned by one of the artisans. It was, the next generation were really interested. And that digital storytelling map that was shown in the exhibition, I thought that was brilliant, and actually something that should be done everywhere, because that's something that craftspeople need to improve on all over the world, is telling those stories, because that's what's exciting about craft. That's why people want to buy craft. That's why people love craft. And I'm just really I'm really excited that this isn't over yet, that this is just the beginning, and that this is the work here is going to continue. I'm just like a little bit speechless about what a brilliant project it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Katya. I think those words really encourage and push all of us to work, keep working like this with the communities. Katya कह रहे हैं कि उनको सबसे पहले तो ये प्रोजेक्ट बहुत ही ब्रिलियंट लगा, बहुत ही अच्छा लगा उनको ये सब काम देख के, और वो बहुत खुश है जो कि हमने काम किया है। उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि उनको क्या अच्छा लगा कि क्राफ्ट इंडिया में ज़्यादातर कम्युनिटीज़ में अभी भी चला आ रहा है, और वो कम्युनिटी में पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी जो चलता है, और यंग पीपल जो काम कर रहे हैं और वो करते आ रहे हैं, उनसे उनको बहुत अच्छा लगा। उन्होंने कहा कि पूरी दुनिया में ऐसा होना चाहिए कि कम्युनिटीज क्राफ्ट कंटिन्यू करें और उनके यंगर जनरेशन जो है वो भी काम करती रहे। उन्होंने ये भी कहा, जो अली भाई ने कहा, कि इससे अच्छा लगा कि सुन के कि इस प्रोजेक्ट के साथ और पहले के एंगेजमेंट के साथ यंग क्राफ्ट्स पीपल अब और भी एक्साइटेड हैं, वो चाहते हैं कि वो काम करें, वो चाहते हैं कि वो कारीगरी में वापस आए, तो उसका उनको बहुत अच्छा लगा। और उन्होंने कहा कि वो काफी लगभग 20 कंट्रीज में काम करते हैं, बट ऐसा क्राफ्टिंग फ्यूचर्स का प्रोजेक्ट या ऐसा काम और ऐसी कम्युनिटी उन्होंने कहीं और नहीं देखी है, तो उनके लिए उनको बहुत खुशी हुई, और उनके लिए सबको वो थैंक यू बोलते हैं। In the last, probably, I think I'm going to ask Kathan. Kathan, we really began this journey together. I think about 6 years ago, I remember we all, went there, and we, to begin discussing this idea of working with Gundiyali came through Manthan, really. And, you've seen us through these 6 years. You've been with us, like Jay said, you've been our partner and collaborator and sort of every, facet. How do you really see the future of community of Gundiyali? How do you see them in the future? And please translate as well so that it's easier.
So Rishabh, firstly, I would like to say that this is a beautiful journey which has really taken place. But I'll go a bit back. Like, I was remembering the day when we three, you, me, and Jay were traveling in a Qualis and going to different villages and looking at different terracotta crafts communities. And then we finally ended up in Gundiyali. I think this is the most beautiful thing which we did. And this project was basically a part of a larger project which we are carrying out with the Department of Science and Technology, where we were working with different craftspeople. But what we really saw in Gundiyali is that we could not look at it as a project. We built a family with the people. I think we share emotions with each and every single person in the village. And these emotions have developed several micro projects. There has been so much of collaboration which has taken place. There have been so many people who have come into the place. I think we have been able to explore so much in the process that it has not only allowed the crafts community to learn, but I think I have learned so much out of it.
Absolutely.
Thinking about the future, I think there's so much we can do. I think Gundiyali can be connected with architecture, which we already did under some of our experiments. It can be so well connected with marketable products, which we did in Ekatra Festival. It can be connected with new media experiences, which we did through the Kalakosh. It can be connected with artistic and creative explorations, which we did in KP. Or even it could be linked with the tradition which Saleh Ahmed Bhai was saying, that it's very important to link, to remember the traditions. And it could also be a great tourism spot. I think that's actually, which is what we had always been looking since the beginning of the time. But what I was really impressed by is basically how in the entire journey, we could bring in the idea of collaboration. And so I think the word co would be the future. There could be collaborative companies which artisan develops with, or a designer develops with a craftsperson, an artist develops with a craftsperson, where they share an equal ground. where the craftsman is equal, where the designer is equal, where the buyer understands what they are really buying. And that's where the future is. And I really look forward, and we all have to work together to get it really happening. So I leave it open now, Rishabh, to get it ahead. But before that, I'll just share this in Gujarati or Hindi.
Yes.
So सभी के लिए मेरे को बताना है कि हमने जो 6 साल में काम किया है, वो बहुत सारी चीजें की है, हमने बहुत सीखा है, हम बहुत सारे लोगों को साथ में लाए हैं, हम स्टूडेंट्स को लाए हैं, हम इंटरनेशनल लोगों को लाए हैं, हम कॉलेजेस को लाए हैं, और उससे सिर्फ गुंदियाली के गांव के लोगों नहीं सीखे हैं, हम लोग भी सीखे हैं बहुत कुछ। और वो बेस लेते हुए मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि अगर ऋषभ भाई हमको फ्यूचर के बारे में पूछते हैं, तो जो जो प्रवृत्तियां हमने की है ये 6 साल में, हर एक चीज जो की है उसमें फ्यूचर है। जैसे हमने जो इंस्टॉलेशन किया था याकूब भाई के यहाँ और अब्दुल्ला भाई के यहाँ, उससे हम लोग आर्किटेक्चर के साथ गुंदियाली को लिंक कर सकते हैं। हमने जो काम किया एकत्र के साथ और क्राफ्ट कोलैबोरेटिव फेलोशिप के साथ, उससे हम लोग गुंदियाली को मार्केटेबल प्रोडक्ट्स के साथ लिंक कर सकते हैं। हमने जो काम किया मीडिया के साथ और भार्गव भाई के साथ कलाकोश डेवलप किया, उससे हम लोग गुंदियाली के प्रोडक्ट्स और आइडियाज को न्यू मीडिया के साथ लिंक कर सकते हैं। हमने जो काम किया क्रिएटिविटी और आर्टिस्ट के साथ, नॉलेज एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम के साथ, उससे हम लोग उस डायरेक्शन में हम लोग बहुत काम कर सकते हैं। और सालिम अहमद भाई और अली मोहम्मद भाई ने जो बात की, मेरे को वो लगता है हम उसको बेस बनाना चाहिए कि ट्रेडिशंस को रिस्पेक्ट करना चाहिए, हमको ट्रेडिशंस को आगे ले जाना चाहिए। साथ ये पूरा प्रोजेक्ट क्राफ्टिंग फ्यूचर का था कि क्राफ्ट टूरिज्म में गुंदियाली गांव को ले जाए। आई थिंक वो बहुत सक्सेसफुल है और उस चीज को आगे ले जाना चाहिए। पर जो पूरे 6 साल में हम लोगों ने काम किया है, वो हमने कोलैबोरेशन का काम किया है। उधर हम लोग बहुत सारे लोगों के साथ जुड़े हैं, हमने बहुत सारे लोगों की कहानियां जानी है, हमने जानी है, आपने जानी है गुंदियाली गांव में, तो वो बहुत जरूरी है। और मेरे हिसाब से किधर फ्यूचर लाई करता है, मैं क्या देखना चाहूंगा कि गुंदियाली गांव के लोग एक डिजाइनर के साथ जुड़े, एक कारीगर एक डिजाइनर के साथ जुड़े और वो एक कंपनी सेटअप करे या वो एक प्रोजेक्ट सेटअप करे और वो साथ मिलके अलग अलग आइडियाज डेवलप करें, एंड जिधर सब लोग इक्वल हैं, तो वो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है हमारे लिए। सो दैट्स ओवर फ्रॉम मी। ऋषभ, ओवर टू यू, एंड इट्स आई थिंक आल्सो टू द ऑडियंस वेयर पीपल हैव टू जॉइन इन नाउ। सो I invite people to join in, and over to you, Rishabh.
Thank you, Kathan. Thank you, everybody, for this amazing discussion on various facets of craft, methodological frameworks, and experiences. I'll hand it over to Jay now. Jay probably can take it ahead, and I think we'll share and launch the rest of the event.
Thank you, Rishabh. We will basically soon kind of open up this panel discussion to a couple of questions that we basically, if audience has. But before kind of we do that, we are also very happy to do a launch of the Gundiyali website. It is called Celebrating Gundiyali at this point. And we thought it's a right time to actually share, and show you what that is. So just giving you a little glimpse on the entire set of the website that we have basically put together. So this website is resource data for which we have collected since last 6 years. So it has the engagements, which is the Gundiyali, basically what we had done. So from 2014 till 2020, we have put all the data, all the engagements, everything that we have done till now. So all our resources, outputs, everything is there. One of the interesting part that it has is the maps, So the map would basically allow somebody to know everything which is there within Gundiyali. So right from craftspeople to the touristic set of informations which is there. And what is more interesting is a digital kind of a output, of a walk. So we have actually devised 3 sets of different walk, which one can actually take within the Gundiyali, So from one place to a second place to third place, which we are going to do in more physical manner, but this pandemic has allowed us to actually record and put this in place. Another interesting part is the community. So we have actually talked about the community, who this community is, and we have also put the entire basically craft directory. So everybody whom we have kind of found and mapped and worked with Gundiyali, they all are there with all the different set of information that they do, and all the different products that we have actually basically developed, through them, with them. So they all are over here also recorded, so that a larger set of basically society would know what all they are kind of capable of. And we have also the resource section, which is there, which basically puts all the data that we have done till now. So it's taking a little while to load. But so right from the panels, toolkits, videos, as I was saying, everything has been put online, open to public, downloadable. All the resources are there, for people to kind of browse through. And finally, the exhibition is also online. So anybody who wants to basically go and visit it later on, can essentially do that. Now, I'm going to basically ask if within the audience, if somebody has any questions that one would want to basically put down in the chat or, things like that. We'll be open to a couple of minutes to basically do that, because we have kind of extended the time, and then we would want to do the thank you. Yes, Nidhi has one set of a question, which is there.
Yeah, so I'm so happy that, it's so heartwarming. Like this whole thing, like hats off to all of you, the CEPT team, like Jay, you were my teacher. And like, I'm like more like, oh my God, you're my guru. Rishabh, Kathan is a friend. Hats off. Like, I was thinking of getting a Mughal print tattooed, but I think I'm going to take so I'm a big Gundiyali fan. My house is full of Gundiyali pottery. Plus, જેટલા પણ પોટર્સે ગિફ્ટ મોકલ્યું, બહુ આભાર. સાચે એકલું સારું લાગ્યું, તમે બેલ્સ મોકલ્યા, મારી જિંદગીમાં બેલ્સ આવી ગયા. So to convert it in English, translated, that the potters, because we taught them filmmaking, just 10 minutes. I'll come because I'm in Baroda. I'll go to Gundiyali soon. And I'll just teach them, And આપણે એક બહુ મોટી પિક્ચર બનાવીએ. We'll get Netflix, Amazon, બધાને, Tribeca, Sundance, let's go get them. I feel as Indians, we've been suppressed so long, like the craft artisan, everyone as artists, just get me the fund. I'll win an Oscar. I'm not joking. All up for Indian crafts in Gundiyali. I'm so empowered, and thank you so much. For my MFA SOP, I'm like, throwing colors now. So I'm so empowered. And artisans, and je tame kidhu, like apne hath clay banave che ki clay aparne banave che. So philosophical, like, and we owe it to the masters, to the greater energy, like, no respect to brands, I've worked with them, but it's not narcissism. It is about giving back to the community. And we as Indian are leading it, because, our villages were sustainable forever. We don't need others telling us to go, the whole movement, because we are that, But again, so now as young Indians, we are coming back, like, India craft, we'll take the country on the global map. And I assure you that we will definitely make a Netflix series. We will be because since, okay, so I was also, just one line to end it, because I was a British Council fellow, like, with the Crafting India project. I think, I forgot, sorry, we should get Bethany here, because she'll design from the Gundiyali imprints. We need a fashion collection also, because fashion inspires youth. So also there should be, I have many ideas. I think I'll connect with British Council and CEPT later. But બહુ આભાર કારીગરોને. તમારા માટે જે જોઈએ હું બધું કરી દઈશ. I'll give my soul, my life to the artisans is what I said. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm very inspired.
Thank you, Nidhi. We are looking forward to the Netflix. Thank you. Anybody from the audience would have any questions and would want to put down also in the chat. We are kind of open to take 1 or 2 questions. Otherwise, we'll have to kind of wrap up the entire session. because it's getting kind of little overboard on the time. So fair enough. So let me kind of basically yes, Kate has one question. Kate, you have one question, two questions, one question. Kate,
Kate, please unmute yourself.
You need to unmute yourself, Kate. We cannot hear you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. No, I don't have a question. I was just saying thank you.
Okay.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And the fact that the crisis made digital media so valid was just fantastic. Very, very interesting. It means more people can share their information without actually going. And I think there was a mention about interventionism. And so I think the idea that you can talk and meet people when they want to see us is just fantastic. It's one of the positive things of this crisis that I've seen. Well done. I was just clapping. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Okay. So Ruby.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you all know of me, but I'm one of the oldest ceramic artists of this country. And yeah, I'd like to say you all have done a great job. When I came back from Alfred, I was visiting various villages and looking at craft and sort of desperately couldn't do it very much. In fact, I even spoke about it to Doshi uncle. I know him pretty well. And this is amazing. So in any way, I live in Pune. If I can be of support to go forward, please just get in touch with me, Jay and Rishabh and anything. I have a huge studio and I'm working with differently abled, and so supporting anything is an agenda on my cards. Okay.
Thank you, Ruby. It will be great. We'll surely connect back to this.
Yeah.
So somebody is basically saying it will be great to hear from the artisan. Assume that they can't express isn't fair. Think Priya, it'll be nicer to basically know your name because we had actually the artisans on board talking about it. We also possibly have a question from Jusab. Jusab, आपको एक कुछ प्रश्न पूछना था. आपने हाथ उठाया था. Yes, Jusab जी. Unmute करके बताएंगे आप. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है, Jusab. नहीं सुनाई दे रहा है. One of the most interesting thing about this was actually Jusab was making, on the wheel. He was actually basically there, and I thought that was one of the most phenomenal part because we are discussing all of this and there are artisans at basically places, and he's actually basically making a pot. Jusab मैं बता रहा था कि actually बहुत अच्छा लगा आपको काम करते हुए देख के हुए, आप अकेले थे जो बैठ के वहां पे काम कर रहे थे, और हमारी बातें सुन रहे थे. तो ये जो कनेक्ट है वही बता रहा था कि पेंडेमिक के कारण ये जो हम कनेक्ट कर पाए, वरना अगर पेंडेमिक नहीं होता तो हम ऐसा कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाते, यूके के लोगों के साथ भी ऐसा कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाते. आपका माइक ठीक हुआ जुसब जी? नहीं, अभी भी सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है.
तो बोल पाओगे?
नहीं, आपने अनम्यूट कर दिया पर आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है. Yes, Think Priya, I would really like who the Think Priya is because I would like to know the name, because she has also put another question, is there a way to see the recording of the message? Yes, everything is there on the website, and we also would have the entire exhibition where one can go in detail and actually go through a walkthrough and see the entire presentation, entire exhibition, entire website. So we'll be soon sharing all the links with everyone. Now, before basically getting into further more delay, I think I would like to actually get to the last part, which is thanking everybody. And that I think that is something which is extremely important. So before I kind of begin, I would like to thank especially all the artisans. So मैं सब गांव वालों को, भाई बहनों, बच्चे, गुंदियाली में जितने भी लोग हैं, कारीगर हैं, उन सब का मैं आभार मानता हूँ कि आपके बिना ये पूरा प्रोजेक्ट कर नहीं पाएंगे। पिछले 6 साल से हम लोग आते जाते रहे हैं और हर बार आपने अपने खुले हाथों से हमें बेसिकली आने दिया है, आपके साथ काम करने दिया है, तो आपका बहुत बहुत आभार। और खास करके ये प्रोजेक्ट के लिए यासर और सकूर दोनों ने बहुत काम किया है और काफी जगह पे घूम घूम के एज एन एम्बेसडर हमारे प्रोजेक्ट में काम किया है, तो उनको भी खास धन्यवाद ये काम के लिए। I would like to thank all the terracotta craftspeople of Gundiyali and also the Yasir and Shakur, who has been the ambassador, who had been actually on the field, and working with us back and forth and getting everything done. So thank you, everybody. Now, from the main core team, the Design Innovation and Craft Resource Center, two major people who have been basically the pillars with whom basically we keep on talking and kind of discussing this project and back and forth are largely Mansi Rao and Rishabh Jain. They both have been most let's say crucial in putting a lot of things together into kind of pushing the projects over here. So a special thanks to them. And then the entire team, Radha, Bhargav, and Lina, 3 people who have been basically at this point constantly kind of talking to various people in Gundiyali, doing a lot of back and forth. And Radha actually joined us, and her first project was Gundiyali, So for Radha, this has been like a kind of a dream project. She has grown with the project, she has grown with us. So special thanks to basically her. Piyush, who has been part of the IT and the technical part of this, and then Mitraja, Samruddh, who has been part of the DICRC, and Daksh, Isha, and Kirtan, who have been on the backhand, but always been extremely supportive. This entire exhibition would not have happened without special thank to Priyanka and Yuka, and a special thank to Priyanka because she was the first one to actually go to Gundiyali and actually work with them and develop multiple products out of them. So it was like for her also the journey back and revisiting, and they both are currently in Europe and they were able to actually connect with this. Special thank to Harsh, Bausar, Nidhi, Badrakia, and Payal because they are the part of the CEPT exhibition team who actually made all of this possible, back and forth, technical, and also keeping us on toes in terms of timeline and making sure that we actually basically finish everything by this time. The CEPT communication team has been extremely crucial into putting a lot of things together. So Kinjal Desai and Hemant Sharma has been putting all the lot of back and forth, social media posts, pushing people, press, and also the website designer Jayesh Goyal, who actually in a short span of time was able to put everything together for the website. Now the special thank goes to the UK India International Residency team. Barney, we have come a long way, right? So I still remember basically sitting at one of the cafe coffee day and discussing a lot of project, and then we moved to Heartbeat. I still don't remember how we met at this point, but a special thank to you and all the different conversations. It's nearly been 40 minutes each time we talk, right? That's minimum span of time that we generally talk, right? Thank you very much for getting on board. So apart from Barney, we have Gabriela Rhodes, Joe Iyer, with whom we actually also worked in Babugaon, Peter Jones, Steve. Thank you, Steve. It has always been pleasure seeing you and working with you. We were actually really looking forward to seeing you live in Gundiyali. So next time for sure, let's put it together. And Ramesh and Rasika Hengadi, who are the Wali artisans, who actually basically are going to make a Wali painting especially for this project. Riaz, really like your work. Thank you very much. And Lokesh for basically coordinating a lot of things over here. Our collaborators, Abhay Kothari and Kathan Kothari has been there always, back and forth. Thank you very much. Anjani Khanna, who has been a silent voice, but also supporting this entire project and hopefully going further and putting this together. And Ranna Parik from Triple ID, who has been also supportive within this. A special thank to British Council team. This would not have been possible, or this project. Jonathan, it was great to meet you in person, and we talked about the idea of tourism, and we are actually able to take this further, together. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Katya, for coming on board and actually this entire basically global program. So it was great to basically do that and basically somewhere putting it back to India, and we were able to do this project. Devika has been generally backbone, doing back and forth, all the phone calls, WhatsApp, blah, blah, blah. Let's put this together. Thank you, Devika. And Pooja, Pooja Sen was basically, together to put all the financial and a lot of admin work together. I would like a special thank to all the experts for the knowledge exchange program, and many of them were actually part over here. They didn't put the video on, but thank you. So Aparna Jaishankar, Ila Mukherjee, Jigna Vyas, K. Vaswani, Kumar Manish, Nidhi Kamath, Nisha Vikram, Ramesh Hengadi, Rasika Hengadi, Riaz Badruddin, Shreya Alok Gupta, Snehal Kashikar, Sumirin Pandya, Thomas Lois, Wasim Samajji, and Vikas Gupta. We have known many of them since many years, and it is great to have all of you on board. And that is why I'm saying pandemic did good. We were able to get all of these people on board. A special thank to drone photography team, Sumayan Sankala and Parth Pandya. They came on, and basically we were the first time we were able to create an entire drone set of map. CRDF and CEPT administration team, right? Because they were the backbone of doing a lot of back work at this point. So Suren Vakil, a special thanks to them, for encouraging us and pushing for taking this project further. Shivangi Akhuri, always been there, smiling, laughing, and say, let's get things done. Mansi Mehta and Sonal Trajikar for making sure that all the finances are in place. So finally, to British Council, will basically give you all the numbers and figures, soon in time. And Firak Pleza, Kaushik Paul, and Himani Shah for, a lot of administrative work. The CEPT IT team, who has been great, Rajesh Patel, Ajay Pinjwala. And I would also like to thank Craft Collab Fellows who had been over here, earlier to develop multiple products with Gundiyali. So Ekta, Pavan, Saurav, Monish, Mrinali, Shushma, and Leena, thank you very much. Some of our CEP students who have been kind of great in actually their work has been put up together. So Bhaumi, Chinmay, Dhwani, Isha, Samriddhi, Jeel, Sakina, Nikita, Khushi, Mahi, and Pratika, and Vedanshi. It was great to have all of you on board and showcasing some of your work. Now, it is very important to basically make sure that everybody becomes part of this project. So because we have been working since past 6 years, there has been multiple set of contributors, who has been there. I'm going to quickly read out their name because they have been with us through and, some of the other part of this journey. So Krishna Shastri, who was the basically earlier director for DICRC, has been extremely instrumental in pushing a lot of projects. Thank you to her. Bimal Mistri, Amit Desai, Prabhat Bhai has been on field. Great person to work with, absolutely, calm, and he knows the entire village on hand. Atish, Bhargav, Chinmay, Chandni, Chirag, Devika, Haritha, Hardik, Kamna, Nikunj, Radip, Rudrapal, RP, Sagar, Shraddhaben, Swati, Upasna, Yatinbai, Bhumika, and Jai. And finally, the Ortelia team, Amanda, Lazarus, and Darren Pack. That was a long, long list. Thank you very much. मैं ये गुजराती या हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट नहीं करूंगा, पर इतने सारे लोगों को मैंने आभार किया, बहुत सारी डिफरेंट टीम्स है, बट मैं सबका शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूं। ये काम आप लोगों के बिना नहीं होता। मैं अभी भी बता रहा हूं कि हम अगर गुंदियाली नहीं आए होते उस दिन, तो मालूम नहीं ये पूरा प्रोजेक्ट होता या नहीं होता, So बहुत बहुत आभार आपको सबके लिए, and thank you all of you, everybody who has been part of this project and people who are currently present. Thanks a lot. We'll soon share the details of the website of the project, of the exhibition, so people can actually also see it in detail, later on. Thank you very much. People can unmute and possibly clap it. It's great. At least look. Physically, we are not able to do that. Yeah. Thank you very much.